Hey everyone, welcome back to the Pantry Reset, or if you're just joining, please be sure to check out all the videos in the series. Today is quite possibly one of my favorite pantry items, a big pot of perfect beans. I don't eat a lot of meat substitutes, and so as you can imagine, legumes make up a really large part of my diet, so I've had plenty of time to perfect a wonderful pot of beans. There are many different routes you can go when it comes to making a pot of beans, but I am going to share today the way that I've been making them for the past couple of years. I will add an addendum. At the time of filming this, I just purchased an Instant Pot, and people have been assuring me that it is the best way to cook a pot of beans. So if you have an Instant Pot, I highly recommend that you check out the instructions on how to make beans in that. But today, I'm going to stick with the old-fashioned method. The first issue with beans doesn't even involve cooking. It's about whether or not to soak. There is some belief out there that if you don't soak and drain and rinse your beans, that you'll end up extra gassy. Now, I know that's not the most pleasant topic, but at the end of the day, you have to listen to your body. Even though I don't have a lot of trouble with the beans, I still choose to soak them because I find the flavor is a little bit better and it does reduce on cooking time just a bit. However, I don't do a long soak. I do a quick hot soak. To do this, I rinse my beans, add them to a pot with about 2 inches of water above the beans, cover, bring the beans to a boil, then turn off the heat and let them rest for about an hour. Now, the reason I do a quick soak is twofold. One, I think the flavor is just a little bit better, and two, I am really bad about remembering to soak my beans the night before. I am usually done for after about 6 p.m., so it's just way easier for me to do a quick soak about an hour before I'm ready to cook the beans. All right, so you have decided to soak or not to soak. Again, it's up to you. The next issue we hit, primarily if you choose to soak, is whether or not you should keep that soaking liquid. And again, there is some belief that the soaking liquid contains the oligosaccharides, which is the thing that causes the gas in beans. So by getting rid of the cooking liquid, you're getting rid of the thing that can potentially cause a lot of gas. However, by draining the soaking liquid, you're getting rid of flavor, and I just find that by keeping the soaking liquid, the flavor of the beans is so much better. It's up to you to decide. If I'm cooking a pot of beans for myself, I don't drain the beans. However, if I'm cooking a pot of beans for, say, my son, he's little, I don't want him to have tummy troubles, I'll drain and rinse the beans. All right, now a few minutes in, we are ready to actually cook the beans. You have them drained, or you're keeping the soaking liquid. You want to make sure that your beans have about 2 inches of liquid on top. But we need to add a few things to the pot. This is where it gets really fun and you can really play with the flavors of your beans. I primarily stick to 2 families, the herb family and the allium family. I like to quarter an onion and toss it in the pan along with some garlic, bay leaf, and a little bundle of herbs including thyme and rosemary. This will change depending on what I have planned for the beans, but that tends to be what I stick to the most. All right, now that you've added your aromatics, we can finally cook those beans. Go ahead and cover the pot and add it to the stovetop. Bring your beans to a boil and let them cook at a boil for about 15 minutes. Reduce the heat to a simmer, uncover, and add a healthy pinch of salt. Now, I know that some of you might start screaming at your screen right now. Wait a minute, I've been told not to add salt to beans, but I promise you you want to. There is some school of thought that adding salt to a pot of beans before fully cooked will harden the beans and you'll end up with crunchy beans. Obviously, no one wants crunchy beans. I get that. However, I have never had a problem with this, except for 2 times. And that tends to be when I have older beans. Older beans just don't cook as well, especially if they're older, say 3 years older, and you can still try and cook them, but they won't get soft. So adding salt to a pot of beans that is already not going to get soft is just a bad situation. However, I like to look at cooking beans a lot like cooking a vegetable broth. You want all of those flavors to have time to mingle and dance and create a really wonderful final product. So don't skip on the salt. Add some salt right after boiling. From there, you're going to let your beans cook for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. Cooking time really depends on the type of bean you're using. So the next question is, how long do I let them cook for? And the answer varies. If you're cooking a smaller bean, like say navy beans, they might only take half an hour to 45 minutes. But for some of the larger beans, say a kidney bean, they could take over an hour. Your best way to tell is by tasting. When dealing with smaller beans, I start at about a half an hour and just start tasting them every so often to make sure the beans are the perfect texture. For larger beans, I usually go more towards 45 minutes to an hour. And after a few times of cooking pots of beans, you'll know kind of the different beans and their different cooking style. That's it. That is my perfect pot of beans. Just whatever you do, don't get rid of the cooking liquid. Do you hear me? I'm looking right at you. Don't get rid of the cooking liquid. So much flavor is in there, and if you plan on storing the beans for any amount of time, you want to store them in your cooking liquid. Now, speaking of storing, how do I store my beans? If I make a small batch that I plan on using within a week, I just tuck it in the refrigerator in an airtight container. However, cooked beans also work really well in the freezer. I go back to those ball pint-sized freezer-safe jars and I divide the beans into those, leaving about a ½ inch or more of headspace because the bean liquid will expand. Tuck them in your freezer for up to 3 months and you have beans whenever you need them. I like to make large batches and kind of cycle through the different kinds of beans I have in my freezer so I can really make any type of meal I'm craving at any time. Be sure to check back in tomorrow for the next video in the series, and as always, if you try a recipe or one of the tips, snap a photo and share it on Instagram with the hashtag #PantryPower. I'll be checking that hashtag throughout the month and hopefully sharing some of your creations. Thanks for tuning in and happy cooking!